What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Another week of transfer rumours and another week of talking about Mohamed Kudus and boiling some more West Ham fans' piss. I think we're all here to see it. And we're going to get straight into and talk through the update. Got quite a bit of news to talk about today, and we're going to start off talking about the academy goalkeeper Josh Keeley, as Alistair Gold says that Spurs are in talks with Josh Keeley, who spent last year on loan at Leyton Orient over a new contract. A large number of Championship and League One clubs are interested in taking him on loan as well as permanently as well. I wouldn't like to see him go permanently, to be fair.
Yeah, but it could be a similar situation to what Phillips and Devine maybe find themselves in with Vicario and Kinski clearly there at the moment as our long-term goalkeepers. Kinski's obviously a similar age to Josh Keeley. So if Kinski's doing well and there's no real reason to kind of force Keeley back into the fold, it's going to be tough for him, through no fault of his own. But I agree. I think another loan deal, see how the land lies. We'll see what's going on with Vicario. Obviously, a lot of rumours about his future flying around. I think nothing too serious at the moment, but if Kinski does displace him and Vicario is looking for that number one slot somewhere and he's not happy, which, could happen during the season, then maybe it could be an opportunity for Keeley to come in and fight for his place with Kinski. So I think, and from that point of view, that's why I wouldn't want to let him go permanently just yet. And I think a loan deal, hopefully to the Championship, because I think he absolutely smashed it last season, would be what he needs. And I think he's such a promising young goalkeeper. I think his loan deals have gone really, really well so far. In part of the senior international setup now with Ireland, he's got his first call up not so long ago. So this is such a top talent, and he seems to be a guy full of confidence, belief in himself, to go to Leyton Orient like he did and not just establish himself but star and have massive moments and even score a goal. Score a goal? Got an assist. Score a goal.
Of course he scored, yeah.
Scored a goal, yeah. So, yeah, for me, I think we have to keep him. I think we should not be letting him go unless there's a decent deal with a buyback clause, which we can activate comfortably.
So let's see what happens with that one. But yeah, talks of a contract are very much welcome. Top keeper. Well, he's going to be a top keeper in my opinion. He's showing a lot of good signs of development. Next up, we're going to talk about Yves Bissouma. We heard last week that Juventus are potentially interested in taking Yves Bissouma off our hands. Graham Bailey says today that Tottenham are ready to sell Bissouma this summer and have told his camp to start working on a move away. 1 year left in his deal, and apparently Spurs have told him, get your bags and go find a new club.
Yeah, and I think with the contract situation, it makes a lot of sense. We're not going to offer him a new deal, I don't think, right now, unless he blows Frank away and Frank convinces the club that we need to sign him on a new deal. I just don't see that happening. And I think for Bissouma as well, for himself, maybe he needs a new kind of scenery, a new club, a fresh start. Because at Tottenham, look, he's had highs, but he's had a lot of lows as well. And it's just been a very inconsistent kind of stop-start time at Tottenham. Hasn't really got going in the way that we had hoped. We can see there's definitely a good player there. We've seen that at Tottenham. We've seen that at Brighton as well. This is definitely a player who can play in the Premier League, no doubt about it. But it's all about, does he have that extra bit about him to have that consistency, that maybe competitive edge as well. We know when he's on his game and he's fully concentrating, he can be a top central midfielder, one of the best in the league on his day when he's really performing at the top of his game. But unfortunately, we just haven't seen that Bissouma anywhere near enough as much as we'd liked, albeit he did perform in big moments last season, that run into the Europa League win right at the end of the season. So that was really good. But I think the crutch of the issue is he's got 1 year left. And I just don't see Tottenham offering him a new deal. And we're going to want some money for him. We're not going to want him to leave on a free. So that all roads point to him leaving. But for me, I think he's a good player, and I think there will be clubs interested in him. I don't think this is a player who's a dud who no one's going to be interested. I do think there will be clubs interested. But Juve, to be fair, I would be surprised if they were letting go of Luiz potentially, which is what the rumours are, and they're replacing him with Bissouma. I wouldn't necessarily say that's an upgrade, so I'll be very surprised if that's the course of action they're going down, albeit I've been very surprised with a lot of Juventus' transfer activity over the last few years, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're making yet another mistake. But I think, to me, the price between 12 and 17, that's a fair deal for Bissouma. I think that's a good price.
Yeah, I think that if you're looking at Douglas Luiz at Juventus, the rumours are today that they've said that he can find a new club and he can move on this summer. So why don't we look to do a deal with Juventus in terms of bringing Douglas Luiz here and sending Yves Bissouma there? I think that'd be, if they really want Bissouma, I think that's a deal that could suit all parties.
Probably money plus Bissouma.
Money plus Bissouma for Luiz, yeah. I think that would be brilliant for us.
Knowing Levy, he'll want to do the deal separate. It's usually how he likes to do it. But still, in any case, I think it makes a lot of sense for Tottenham. Makes a lot of sense if that's what Juve want as well. I'm all for that. And I think Luiz is exactly the kind of midfielder we kind of want. A good kind of passing tempo setter kind of central midfielder, but also has that bit of defensive solidity. I don't think it's like when you're comparing him to some of the best defensive midfielders in the league. I think defensively, I don't know if he's quite as good as them, but he's still pretty good. But I think on the ball, he's got unbelievable ball striking ability, great shot from, fantastic shot technique, those curlers from the edge of the box he has. And I think he's got great passing range, very good at set pieces as well. So for me, I think he'd be a top option, Douglas Luiz, and I would very much do a deal if that's possible. There's rumours of, I think, Fulham being interested. I think there was rumours of even Everton. But I don't know why more top clubs aren't in for him, because when he was at the top of his game at the end of last season, or 2 seasons ago, off the back of a stellar season at Villa, where I think he got something like 11 goals or something, and even playing in central midfield. And there's a reason why Juve spent good money on him. And in fact, I think they spent 35 million plus they gave 2 players, if I remember rightly, Samuel Welling Jr. and I think there was someone else. Barrenechea. So that was a reason that was a very good. That was quite a significant deal for them. There was a reason why he was very highly sought after. But I do wonder why he hasn't worked out at Juve. He just hasn't been able to get on the pitch. I think he made 3 starts the whole of last season.
He's had a lot of injury problems this year.
Yeah, but even when he's been fit, he just hasn't. Maybe he's been struggling to get over those injuries. I think at Villa as well, he didn't have the best injury record, if my memory serves me right. But I think maybe that's something to look out for if he's maybe a player who struggles with injuries. But I like him as a player, and if we can do a deal for Bissouma, I'd definitely do it.
Yeah, just looking at his injury history now, he missed 41 days with a hamstring injury, 6 games, 2 games with muscle fatigue, 1 game with muscular problems, 1 day he needed a rest, 10 games with muscle fatigue. So he seemed to have a lot of muscle problems this season. So he missed 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 games this year just through muscle injuries.
And what about for Villa? Was it all right for Villa?
Villa was... he had muscle injuries at Villa, but not to that extent. He hadn't had an injury since 21-22 season.
It's interesting. I remember listening to a podcast. Evra was talking, and he was saying that when I don't know if they have the same fitness staff now as they did when Evra was there, but he was saying that when he went to Juventus, when he was playing for Man United, he said the amount of running they made you do in training and the amount of fitness work they made you do, he said he'd never seen anything like it. He said he was doing so much more running in Juventus training than he was for Man United. So I don't know if there's something to that, whether Juve, the standards there put a lot on the players. I don't know, or maybe it's just unlucky season. It's hard to really know exactly what's going on with Douglas Luiz, but we see when he was in the Premier League, he was a top player.
But look, the reality is he's gone injury-free for 2 years, and then he's missed 20 games this year due to injury. There's got to be some sort of reasoning behind it. We don't know, obviously, but that is that. Let's move on and talk about Romero now. As AS publication out in Spain say that Atletico have made a new €70 million bid for Romero. The proposal is worth an initial €55 million with a potential 15 million in add-ons, which, if this is true, I don't know if that's something Spurs will. It only seems about 5 million more than what the original proposal was in add-ons. That is as well.
I think it's a kind of deal that you would probably reject, but then that would also represent a deal that's not far off. For example, Tottenham probably go back to say, okay, we're not going to accept this, but you add 5 million to the actual fee, and then you do 60 plus 10. And maybe we'll accept it. And then all of a sudden you're getting very close. So we don't really know, if this bid is real or not, or if it's a genuine bid. But if there's any truth to it, and that's an actual bid they've made, for me, that's getting very close to what Tottenham want. And I think they would reject that, but I think a few kind of manoeuvrings, a few differences with add-ons and what the straight cash is, and I think Tottenham would find the bid acceptable. I don't think it's far off.
Yeah, I mean, if they gave like 10 more million in the initial fee and, you know, less of 5 million in the add-ons fee, that is definitely something we'll accept. Spurs would accept.
Yeah, I think even if it's like, I think 10 million is maybe a bit too much, but I think even if it's like 6-7 million in add-ons with the other stuff coming from the guaranteed fee, I think that's something Tottenham would highly consider, I would say.
If this is true, right, you are getting the sense now that the deal is very, very close, aren't you? Really close. And with the rumours of Spurs to make a substantial bid for Mohamed Kudus and Romero to go out the door, are we going to bring in another top centre-back? That's the main question, isn't it?
Big question, because we've been through it a lot. How many centre-backs we currently have at the club? Takai coming in, he's set to be confirmed very soon. We have Dragoshin, Danso, Van der Ven, and even Davis is still here at the moment. So even without Romero, we're currently on 5 centre-backs. So is something going to have to give there as well, on top of Romero leaving, if we're going to really spend big on a centre-back? Or are we willing to go into the season with 6 centre-backs potentially? So, and we're going to have 6 centre-backs. Unless the plan is to play a back 3 for the majority of the time, that's going to be a bit of an issue, I think, having that many, especially with the amount of squad space we need. But I think all Spurs fans would agree that looking at our centre-back options without Romero, you know, worries you. And it's you'd feel like you would want more quality there, and you'd feel like you definitely want a better option. So I don't think Tottenham fans would be happy selling Romero and then relying on the current crop that we have. But the club would argue we spent, you know, 30 million on Dragoshin, 25 million on Danso, and I could see the club, I could see Levy saying, look, we spent them good decent money on them, and you're going to have to use them, and we're not going to just keep buying players, which I don't think is the right way. I think I would probably, in that situation, if that's the way they're going to go down, then I would see if there's any offers for Dragoshin and try and sign a real upgrade on him, or someone who's closer to the quality of Romero, than rely on those 2 centre-backs for me. But if that's not going to happen, it's going to be interesting to see how we move forward with that, because I worry, to be honest. I worry about that situation.
Yeah, I mean, if we are going to bring in other centre-back, something's got to give. And Dragoshin, like you mentioned, probably is the only real fall guy, because we're not going to get rid of Danso. We're not going to get rid of Van der Ven. We're not going to get rid of, obviously, Takai's just come in. We've got Vuskovic and Phillips, who's probably going to go out on loan this season. So
obviously, we're hoping Davis probably leaves, or at least
I'm not even counting Davis.
Maybe gets left out the Champions League squad at the very least.
I'm not even counting Davis, but in terms of just pure numbers, if we want to bring in a centre-back to replace Romero, one of the other centre-backs has got to go as well.
Which is mad to think about.
Yeah.
But in terms of this whole Romero thing, I reckon if they are making bids now, it kind of makes sense, because they want to put as much pressure on early before Romero's had a time to chat with Frank and see where his head's at and all that kind of stuff. And obviously Tottenham are going to try and convince him, and they're going to try and offer him contracts and those rumours of Levy wanting to make Romero the highest paid player at Tottenham and all these different things. So I think from Atletico's point of view, I can understand, while he's on holiday and he's not back with the players and stuff, getting his ear as early as possible and get those bids in, so that he goes into those conversations with Frank with already thinking of Atletico rather than being as open as he could be to staying.
He does say he loves Tottenham, Romero, and he also does say, there was some suggestions in the press last week saying he's not going to push for a move, he's not going to request a transfer. So if that is the case, is there a possibility of Spurs rejecting these offers out of hand and doing their best to keep him next season?
I think from that point of view, as I do think he likes Spurs. I think it's a similar maybe situation to like the Kane situation, where I think he, in an ideal world, he would love to he would love to think the club are as ambitious as him and going to challenge for big trophies. But I think he's maybe not happy with decisions being made higher up. and he's not happy with a lot of the direction that the club is going. And obviously, we did win that trophy, and that's obviously fantastic. And he liked the manager, he liked Ange, he was on record saying that. But he's also not happy with the fact that every time we have a big summer we look to kick on, we don't do what's required, like the teams that he wants to be challenging with. He's not interested in challenging for top four or being mid-table, being where we were. He wants to be right at the top, challenging for big things every season, and that's what he said. He said it's a beautiful club, and he said if done right, they could be challenging for titles every season. I think that's what he wants, but I think he has clearly lost faith that the hierarchy are ever going to provide that while they're here. So I think he's thinking, look, I'm 27 now. He's not old, but at 27, it's a significant part of your career. Do I want to? I've spent how many seasons at Tottenham? 4 seasons at Tottenham. I've won a trophy here. I'm part of the history. Do I want to put my faith that this hierarchy are ever going to get me challenging right at the very top? Or do I want to make the move to Atletico, who consistently, yes, I mean, it's tough to beat Madrid and Barca, but they are very often within shooting distance of them, and they're usually third, and they have won a couple of league titles in that time as well. But he probably feels like he's got a better chance doing it at Atletico than he does at Tottenham. So I don't think it's a case of like he's desperate to leave, but I think right now, because he's doesn't like the club, but I think when he looks at the situation, I think he's thinking it's now's the right time to probably go to Atletico if I've got the opportunity.
Well, as he once said, the problems that have always been at this club and will always be at this club, and those are the issues, unfortunately. But let's move on and let's talk about the big story, which is Mohamed Kudus, as Graham Bailey says that Tottenham have made a third bid worth £60 million for Mohamed Kudus. Tottenham's third bid was worth an initial £50 million plus a further £12.5 million in add-ons. West Ham have deemed the add-ons unacceptable, as they included payments for Spurs winning the Premier League and winning the Champions League. Talks remain ongoing. West Ham want around £60 million in straight cash and no add-ons. Mohamed Kudus has rejected a late approach from Bayern Munich because he is set on completing a Tottenham transfer. Kudus has informed West Ham that he is focused on only signing for Spurs. Alex Crook says that Tottenham's bid for Mohamed Kudus included add-ons that only kicks in if they win the Champions League or Premier League. And ex-West Ham employee who's a reliable West Ham ITK says that West Ham are now expecting Spurs to come in with an improved offer in the next day or so, which is interesting with him rejecting Bayern Munich, because we all know what happened with Musiala on the weekend. Horrific injury. He's going to be out for 4 months minimum, but I expect it could be quite a way longer than that as well. So with Bayern coming in for Kudus, you'd imagine that he might get significant game time there as well.
Yeah, but he wants to, maybe he's happy in London. A lot of, when it comes to these kind of moves, that plays a big part as well. Where the player is, where he's happy. Does he want to uproot his life and move to Germany, or is he happy in London? Wants to stay in England. Clearly, I think that's his priority. So, look, we don't know how much truth there is to him rejecting Bayern. That's the current rumour, but obviously Harry Kane made that move, but that was a different situation. I think he was obviously been at Tottenham for a long time. I think Kudus is still fairly young. He's 24. He wants to remain in the Premier League. He doesn't want to be playing in the Bundesliga. He's got Champions League football with Tottenham as well. Yes, at Bayern you're going to be challenging for bigger things more regularly, but at Tottenham he's feeling like it's a chance to remain in the Premier League and maybe kick on with a club that clearly has a big scope to improve, and he wants to be part of that. I agree with you. You'd think, look at the situation. Sane's left. Musiala's out for a long time. Gnabry's not getting any younger. There's definitely space there. Coman as well. He's near 30. So you would think he would maybe be one of their. You've got Olise, but then again, maybe he's looking at Olise things like, I'm not never getting in ahead of Olise, am I? But maybe you'd feel like he could play the number 10 there, but I don't know if he's a different kind of number 10 to Musiala. So yeah, I just feel like maybe he wants to stay in the Premier League. That's the main thing. But in terms of all these other bids, let's hope I'm glad I'm hearing this news that we're making bids early I'm very happy about that, and we're looking to get this deal done quickly, and we're pushing on with this move, and all the rumours are we're looking to really accelerate and bid within the next few days because we can't let this rumble on. That's what we've been saying, so that's really positive.
Yeah, for the add-ons in this
Yeah, that's
Champions League win and Spurs and Premier League win. Now we know why Daniel Levy said that in that interview with Vinay. On the Spurs YouTube channel, he's like, I want to win the Premier League, I want to win the Champions League. West Ham are looking at that and seeing the bid at the same time. It's like, this guy ain't for real, surely.
Yeah, I'm saying he's got a reputation for being a tough negotiator, but he's got a reputation as well for absolutely boiling the piss of all the other chairmen. So this would definitely play into that 100%.
I swear, this guy Levy has no shame whatsoever. If he's putting in derisory bids anyway that you know that are going to be rejected, so you put in an inquiry 2 weeks ago for 50 million. 2 weeks later, you put in a bid for 50 million. Both are rejected, which is madness in itself. And then you come in with another bid with add-ons added to that, saying, but only if we win the Champions League and Premier League. I mean, this guy...
In terms of your point, do I think he does his add-ons thinking they're going to accept it? I don't. I think he's testing his luck. I think he knows there's a good chance it's going to be rejected, and he knows that maybe, I don't know, he'll just piss him off. But it was interesting to listening to West Ham Fan TV yesterday. I was watching the video and what Nicky was saying about Kudus, because Kudus has made this stance now about he only wants Tottenham, he's prioritising Tottenham. That has clearly infuriated West Ham fans. We're going to react to some of their comments, but he's saying, has that backed West Ham into a corner now where if Chelsea don't, they're basically relying on Chelsea coming in, because if they don't, they might have to sell Kudus on the cheap because they can't keep him now. Like there's no way that Kudus can step back in West Ham with fans in that stadium with what's happened. So are they in big trouble now if there's no one as serious as Tottenham in bringing Kudus to their club?
Kudus is now public enemy number one at West Ham. That's what he's done now by making this stance very clear. He only wants Tottenham. And if he's going to refuse to deal with Chelsea, refuse to deal with Bayern Munich, refuse to deal with any other club that comes in, and he genuinely only wants Tottenham, then it has backed them into a corner. Because he can't go back there. They can't deal with any other club, so they have to deal with Tottenham. And Tottenham are going to know that, obviously. So Tottenham are going to try and take advantage of that.
100%.
But is it reality?
It's a risk from Tottenham as well.
Yeah, exactly. But is it reality that he will only deal with Tottenham? Like, if this deal keeps rumbling on, he's going to be like, you know what? Do they really want me that much? Shall I start talking to Chelsea?
Yeah, well, that's the risk. And that's happened with us before, hasn't it? Where we've been in these situations, we think we have the upper hand in a negotiation, and then something changes, and all of a sudden, all the waiting, and it's the perfect example. I mean, it's a bit different, but the one example that everyone remembers is the Grealish one. We had the upper hand in negotiation. Villa were absolutely strapped for cash. They were willing to take a really cheap offer, but we were trying to get it. So I think they were willing to accept something like 20 million or something, or 25 million.
Went back in for like 5 million.
We thought, we can basically get him for whatever we want because they need the money anyway, and we're the only ones in for him, so we can just do whatever we want. And we bid 5 million for Onuma and plus Onuma or something stupid, and we were going with stupid bids, and we delayed, and then all of a sudden Villa got taken over, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, now we want 50 million because we're going to keep him now because we don't need the money as much, and that deal was dead. Other when we could have had him for 25 million. So that's the risk we run, where we can get him now. Pretty much we can get him now if we want him for like 65. We're going to try and lowball it because we're the only ones seriously in for him currently, and West Ham might be forced to sell. But the longer this rumbles on, Chelsea could sell Madueke, then put a serious bid in for him. Other things can change. To Liverpool maybe become serious with him with what's happened. Like, things can change very quickly. So if you don't strike while the iron's hot, while you have that opportunity, you're putting a massive risk on the deal falling apart. 100%.
Exactly, and that's why we need to wrap this deal up ASAP. Put in a bid that West Ham are going to accept and get the ball rolling. Like, his release clause is 85 million. If get him for 60, 65 million. I think that represents good value, in my opinion. Especially in this day and age when you're signing Archie Gray for 40 million. A deal for 60, 65 million for Mohamed Kudus is value, in my opinion. And I think he can take our attack onto the next level. But when you actually think about what is going on right now and what Kudus is doing and what his stance has been over the past week or so, saying that he only wants to deal with Tottenham. Can we just think about this for a second? Because I think it's absolutely mad. Like, West Ham hate us more than anyone, and he'll know that as well by playing in these games in the last 2 years. The tempers flare very high in this kind of fixture. West Ham absolutely hate the guts out of us. This is boiling so much piss in the West Ham fan base. It must be boiling so much piss inside the West Ham boardroom as well. Like, I actually can't believe that Kudus is making this his stance. I know he's not come out in an interview and said it, but all the reliable journalists are talking about it, right? Saying Kudus is only going to deal with Tottenham. Like, this is basically the same as like an Arsenal player like not Bukayo Saka, but an Arsenal player like Trossard or one of their big wingers like Martinelli saying he only wants to deal with Tottenham, or someone like Kulusevski coming out saying he only wants to deal with Arsenal. Like, this is the level of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, to that, which is crazy to think about. It's a proper betrayal to West Ham fans. I think from what I've seen about on the reaction, which we'll get into later, like a lot of them don't mind him leaving, but how dare he say he only wants Tottenham? This is a massive kind of, in terms of footballing rivalry for West Ham fans, this is absolutely massive. This is him going to public enemy number one. He's joining the enemy, and if this move happens, he is going to get absolute pelters whenever he goes to the Olympic Stadium. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely crazy. I can see him getting so much abuse, and it's going to stoke the rivalry between the clubs even more as well. And Tottenham, will feel like we've got the upper hand. But it's weird because, as I've said before, like, we've done deals with them before, and it's not felt the same as it would now, I feel. Like, I think, we got Parker, Defoe, Canute. I think Defoe was different because he handed in a transfer request while they were in the Championship. So that's a big reason why he was hated. But like Parker, I don't remember it being a massive deal.
Didn't they go down that year, though?
They went, I think it was while they were in the Championship, I think, or in the summer. I think it was in the dressing room, in fact. It was in the he got sacked. So who are you talking about? Which one?
Parker.
Yeah, Parker, they went
down that year.
They went down, yeah.
So, I mean, most of the deals that we've got of them, they've always been in the Championship.
Except for Carrick, maybe? Carrick. Well, I think they did go... No.
Carrick, they're in the Championship as well, weren't they?
Actually, I think you're right. I think they just got promoted.
So, I mean, like, West Ham... they won the Conference League a couple of years ago. They're a much different club now to what they were than when we were taking those players off them then. You know what I mean? They're a Championship club and flirting between relegation and the Premier League at that moment in time. Now, they're a decent club. Got a really good squad there. I know they didn't have a good season last year, but they've been finishing top half of the league and going far in European competition, Europa League, winning the Conference League. Like, there shouldn't really be a situation where we can go and take their best player right now.
No. Like, imagine Arsenal taking one of our best players like Maddison or something. That would the riots that would cause, honestly. So, but in terms of your point to the boardroom, I actually doubt the boardroom care that much. I think they care more about the fan reaction than they do about him going to Tottenham, in my book. The West Ham boardroom haven't never really looked to me as one who've cared about sentiment and fan rivalries and that kind of stuff.
I don't disagree, but they are West Ham people in the boardroom in terms of they know what it is to be a West Ham fan and they'll know what this means. They'll know exactly what this means. David Gold and Karen Brady and all that kind of stuff. Like, they've been there for a while. They know exactly what it means to the rivalry between Tottenham and West Ham. So,
would this be the biggest kind of transfer betrayal we've been on the right side of?
Since Rowan Ricketts?
Since Gallas, maybe? Gallas, he left Arsenal, where he kind of...
Arsenal did not care about that one bit.
But he was their captain and he came to us.
Yeah, they didn't care about that one bit.
I'm trying to think anything that we've been on the right side of in this. Yeah,
I think it's probably the biggest one in my living memory, to be honest, being a Spurs fan, because this is literally West Ham's. Last year they were saying he's his best player. They've got Jarrod Bowen there as well, who's probably better at this moment in time. But he's one of their best players. They thought like he had world-class ability after his first year. They're saying this guy is just an unbelievable football player. And for him to come out and say that he only wants to join Tottenham, I think has got to hurt them so much.
Yeah, 100%.
So much.
Especially in a season when they just finished above us as well in the league, even though obviously we won the Europa League. But if you're a West Ham fan, I know we're Tottenham fans, right? So we understand there were situations why we finished 17th. Obviously, we know we've got a new manager coming in. We're pretty certain that situation is going to be very different, and we're hoping to be challenging again for the European spots next season. But if you're like a rival fan, you maybe don't know all the context. You're like, you finished 17th, we finished above you, we can now kick on and stuff. Like, to hear one of your best players wanting to join rivals you just finished above, who finished below you last season, that must really sting. If that's the truth, 100%.
Absolutely.
But it's going to be fascinating how this plays out. If there, will fan pressure, if their deal does seem to be getting closer and there's talks of a deal being agreed, will there be massive fan pressure to stop this deal, and will they bow to it? I think that is going to be fascinating over the next week as well. I think that's a different element, which I don't think we've really seen the full amount of, but maybe over the next few days, if there's real talk of this actually happening, will fan pressure on social media, even in person, will there be protests, all these kind of things, will that actually happen? And will that put too much pressure? And will they bow to that pressure? It'll be very interesting.
Well, look, we'll get into all that a bit later on in the stream because we've got some good reactions to get through. But two more names to talk about today. First up is Orkan Kokcu of Benfica. Caught Offside are reporting that Tottenham have been showing interest in signing Benfica midfielder Orkan Kokcu, who is pushing to leave the Portuguese Giants. Spurs are one of the 4 clubs eyeing the 24-year-old and could be allowed to leave for around £35 million. He has impressed since joining from Feyenoord in the summer of 2023. Kokcu's future has been the subject of speculation following falling out with manager Bruno Lage. Turkish outlet Sports Digital also reports that the player has informed the Portuguese club he does not intend to return for pre-season on July the 14th.
Yeah, I liked Kokcu when he was at Feyenoord. I remember we were talking about him back in the days when we were linked with Arne Slot and we were thinking he was actually going to come. That seems like a long time ago now. And I remember Kokcu was heavily linked. We thought we were going to get Slot on Kokcu in a double deal. I really like him. I think he's but I don't know if, again, he's kind of similar profile to like a Bergvall. Maybe not
Isn't
quite
he
a
more of a
Bergvall. He's like a 10, but not quite a 10. He's like more of a 8/10, like a Bergvall, I guess. Like he's like a 8.5 kind of thing. He's very good technically, good dribbler, really good passer. I think that's his main attribute. Great passing ability. I just don't see the necessity for him right now. But he's a good player. I think he's 23. He's quite young. He's been quite good at Benfica in the Champions League when I've watched him as well. So he's a good player. I just don't believe we're going to bring him in right now. It sounds like an agent talk to me to try and get up some interest.
Yeah, there are. They say there are a number of clubs interested in him. Look, he's a talented player, no doubt about it. And with him not wanting to stay at Benfica, there's rumours of trouble there, and the potential of a cheaper deal maybe than if he wanted to stay at Benfica. Maybe Levy smells a bit of an opportunity here. But last but not least, we're going to talk about Jacob Ramsey. As the Football Insider says that Spurs are working on a deal to sign Jacob Ramsey. In addition to Mohamed Kudus, Spurs' recruitment team have been long-term admirers, and Thomas Frank is believed to be a big fan too. The club have already held talks with agents over a transfer.
Yeah, it's one that just doesn't seem to go away, does it? Jacob Ramsey. Every summer we seem to be linked with him.
Yeah, similar to Eze.
Similar to Eze. Reminds me of Conor Gallagher as well. That kind of deal. So whether it comes to fruition, I think I understand that Tottenham might see an opportunity with Villa struggling with PSR, and that he's a good, versatile player. That would be a good signing for us. But again, it comes with the similar question marks about the necessity, the profile that we need. He just doesn't seem to be, as much as apart from it being a good opportunity, I don't see the need to sign him. Like, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but we have players that can play in the positions that he's strongest in, and it just doesn't seem like a necessary signing. I'd rather, sign other players, but I do like him, and he would be the kind of player he's one of these players you sign and he can just kind of play in a few different positions, so versatile. When you got injuries, he fills in, that kind of stuff. But I just would rather focus on other. Again, we're limited with squad space, and it's just we really are struggling for numbers right now. And I don't know if adding a player that we don't need is the right way to go.
You know what it is with Jacob Ramsey? I really like him as a player, but I'm just fed up of signing these opportunities in the market. It's time just to focus on what you need. Like a Mohamed Kudus, we need him. We need that profile of player. We need that position in the squad. Just focus on players that you need. Yeah, fine, he's a good player and he could probably do really well for us, but we're too stacked in the positions that he's going to play. So literally all we need to do in this window is focus on the positions that we need and bring in those players, bring in those profiles of players that fit the squad. Enough of this opportunities in the market rubbish.
I know, but that's Tottenham, isn't it? We love an opportunity. I think that's the thing with Levy as well. Whenever you watch kind of any behind the scenes thing about him or you read any articles, they all say he especially beforehand or a few years ago, he was addicted to like deadline day, right? Because he loved the rush of getting deals done and opportunities, and that's just how he loves transfers. He loves to kind of think he's getting one up on the market. He loves to win win deals, win negotiations. So I think he lives for those opportunities. That's kind of Levy. He sees like he would rather pay under market value for an opportunity than pay full whack for a player we really need. And that's just how Levy's always operated, and that's the big problem with him.
Massive problem. But I still don't see us going for Jacob Ramsey.
No, for me, again, it's not about him per se. He's a good player. It just doesn't make too much sense for Tottenham right now.
Yeah. But look, that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below all the news stories that we did bring to you today.